Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Women in Leadership Talk podcast. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We have a wonderful guest who has joined us. So let's welcome Tonya Dickenson to the show. She's the founder and creative director of Asymmetric by Design. So Tonya, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you. It's very exciting for me.
Well, we're thrilled to have you, and let's take a moment and welcome our audience. We know you're coming from all over the globe, and so thank you for chiming in and hearing the inspiring and uplifting stories that our guests often, bring to us. So let me share a little bit about why I've asked Tonya to come on the show today. So as I said, Tonya is the founder and creative director of Asymmetric by Design. And she's really combined her creative flair with her business acumen from her career in pharmaceutical industry. She founded Asymmetric Design, a sustainable, one-of-a-kind jewelry brand. It is recognized for its socially responsible practices, but more importantly, for its empowering, bold, and unique designs that captivates what beauty and narratives. She loves to juxtapose elements from various cultures and eras. Each design is unique, has a name, and tells a story, just like each of her customers. So we're thrilled to have you here, Tonya. And let's jump in because when I read your story, I got so excited. And I'm like, okay, we have to have her here. I want to hear how this all transpired. So take us on a journey of what has, led you to this creation that you have brought to the world.
Thank you for that great introduction and question. And yes, I think I'll take you a little bit all over the world this morning. But really, it all started with a twist of fate when my father, a Canadian diplomat, was affected to Cairo in Egypt. And imagine this is in 1978, so this is 46 years ago. I was 10 years old at the time, so you can do the math. And we were coming from Ottawa, so it was not a cross posting. If you can imagine Cairo, a city, a bustling metropolis, surrounded by desert, with the sounds and the smells, and the garbage collectors were actually children riding donkeys with carts, and there were camels on the highways, and I was coming from, clean Ottawa, not noisy, no honking of cars, and I was just like, wow, overwhelmed. But it was just living there really set the stage of my whole life, actually. I really understood, first of all, that I had won the lottery of life, that I didn't have to work as a child collecting garbage or garbage to make a living. And we would also spend the afternoons with my mom and my sister going to the souk of Khani Khalili, which is an ancient souk. And we would go through these labyrinths, and I would spend afternoons going through these jute bags of pieces of broken jewelry, bits of silver, until my hands were black.
Wow.
And I asked the shop owner, tell me the story about this. And so he would tell me the stories over, a small glass of mint tea, very sweet mint tea. And I was just fascinated. It was like living in the Caverne d'Ali Baba, Aladdin's cave. It was just pure magical. And so following that, I really was fascinated by culture, fascinated by antiques, fascinated by antique beads. And so that started really 40 years of collecting antiques and antique silver all over the world. Where I first go is to a souk,
Yeah.
I love that. I love to learn and meet the people and hear the stories. And so that's the winding path that led me to this and to creating Asymmetric by Design. And realizing that, we are very lucky here in Canada.
Oh, no kidding. And I love how you shared that story of, recognizing the winning the lottery of where you live. That's really important. But also how as a young child, you're experiencing the Aladdin's cave, like just being able to, like, who gets to do that? That's fantastic, and how that has inspired you. But you took a detour there when you went into pharmaceuticals, right? And so, you know, how did that bring you back to actually actualize your dream and your vision for Asymmetric by Design?
That's an excellent question. It is purely accidental. So what happened is after pharmaceutical, my husband was affected to the Middle East, which I love. I actually speak a little bit of Arabic, and which enabled me to continue collecting. But when we came back, it was the pandemic.
Mm.
Really, that crisis that forced me into action. And having spent my 25 years in pharmaceutical, including 10 specifically in antibiotics. So I was the head marketer for Abbott. I knew that the only thing we needed is a vaccine. No medication could stop this pandemic. And so within a week, I had launched Army of Masks within Canada. And within that first year, we actually produced 80,000 reusable masks for free for doctors, nurses, long-term care. And so that made me realize that if I could make an impact in a crisis locked in my house, then I could actually make an impact in things that I loved. Because obviously making reusable masks was never my passion. And so then I spent time once reusable masks were available, or disposable masks were available, saying, what do I really like? What are my passions? What I really care about? And what is my value offering? What makes me different? And so I really reflected. I said, "This I love. I'm surrounded by all these antique jewelries, and I've been designing all my life, and this is really what I love. Even though I'm a mathematician and an economist, this is what I
love. You've got a whole circle of skills in your bag. I love it.
I love. And what's important to me is empowering women. What is important to me is making a difference. And this is how I really reflected for a year as to how I was going to build my company. And having been in strategic planning, I've really spent a lot of time making a strategic plan of my company, because I'm interested in so many things, but you can't be everything to everybody.
Yes,
my
very true.
Are really protecting the planet and empowering women.
Well, and I would say it's even taking it beyond that, right? Like, so, I mean, one of the things that, you're known for with your business is your originality, but also the sustainability, right? And you were nominated for the Coup de Président, right, in Montreal, which is, that's like huge during Montreal Fashion Week. But these initiatives for sustainability, driving that, like, that's not just about empowering women. That's about changing the landscape of how we do things in the world. So what drove that, Tonya?
Okay, well, in all honesty, if we go back to the 10-year-old Tonya, she was collecting things based on their beauty, and their uniqueness. And so I was collecting things that I've never seen in my life and anywhere, and I've traveled to over 100 countries, and sometimes many times. So if I could see a piece that was unique, I would buy it. And really, but everything, like my life, my furniture is antique, my dishes are antique, my clothes often are secondhand, because there's better value for money. It's more beautiful, it's better made, it's more interesting, it's warmer. So I've always been attracted by the beauty, the workmanship, the craftsmanship of it, and also the protection of it, because these are time capsules that have so much rich history. Yes, I've bought an IKEA stuff as well, but there's not that history, there's not that depth, there's not that warmth, and things don't break, if they're antique often. And so I, even in Cairo, I was I sifted through sand and I was able to collect beads from, Cleopatra's era, the pharaonic era. So for me, it's always, just been so magical.
Yeah.
And so the protection of the history and culture has sort of transformed into, well, this is sustainable too, by the way. And there have been beads and pearls around for thousands of years, whether it's 40 or 100,000.
Mm-hmm.
Do we really need to mine more? Do we need more gold? Can we not melt? Can we not? So it was really this reflection of mine as to we have enough and we can repurpose in something that's modern. Because for instance, my grandmother had, just simple pearl necklaces. I like asymmetry. Like I love to jazz it up a bit. I don't do boring. Let's say.
Okay.
Say, Mommy doesn't do boring. No, I don't do boring. I like a little bit of difference, and like this is what I made for my daughter's wedding when I wore. So it's just I just find it so beautiful, and we can reuse and repurpose. We don't need to, mine more and hurt the environment, and have people die mining.
Yeah.
We don't. We have enough. We have enough.
Yeah. Well, I love how you share that because we have turned into a society of disposable goods, right? Like, even when you look at whether it be cars or whether it be appliances or clothing, or like there's so many ways that, it's sad to even say this, like, as an example, you buy an appliance now and you're lucky if you get 5 years out of it, but you've paid 10, 20 times the price. And you go back to the 70s and you buy a refrigerator that's still working great today. And so, you can't get the parts anymore. But we have created this world, this society of disposable, which is hurting us. And so I love what you're saying with repurposing and finding ways to make it more sustainable. And so I want to go back to, what I've heard you share today is you've had a dream since you were 10 years old. And what really drove you to get there? Because I see so many individuals who get on autopilot and they're afraid to make that move from corporate to living their true purpose. So what really helped you to do that? And I know you said COVID was one of the reasons, but beyond COVID, what was the real driver for Tonya?
It was having the courage, but also the confidence. I acquired the confidence that I could make a difference and that people would listen to me. So like I won an award for Army of Mass with Queen's University 2 years in a row. And so it's that confidence that, as a single person, we actually can make a difference.
Yeah.
And it can be in any which way. And so it was that realization, that aha moment. And also, I honestly, I loved, to be perfectly honest, I loved also the freedom.
Of course.
From pharmaceuticals, your hands were really tied.
Yes.
Like a visual aid or ad could take 6 months to go through our legal, our medical, Health Canada, back to legal. And with Army of Mass or now our Asymmetric by Design, if I want to do a post, I could do a post and have it up there in a nanosecond. And so I love that. I love that freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And also I love the fact that I didn't have to operate anymore on a short-term stock price schedule.
Amazing.
I'm here to build for the long term. I'm here to make an impact over long term. I'm here to leave a legacy. And that also I loved. But I never thought I could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did do it, I said, okay, I'm going to repeat it. And
Nice.
I truly love. And this is really my passion.
Love it. Well, you can tell, like you hear it in your stories and how you're sharing how it's all come to fruition. Um, and what I just want to recap there that I think is so important, and this is more for our audience, but how you looked at your values and what was important to you. So I heard freedom, I heard sustainability, repeatable, trust, the integrity, right? And confidence and how you're communicating that. And so, for our audience that's listening, it's, help to, when you want to live your true purpose, your true dream, how do you tap into those things to help you have the courage to make that step? Love that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. So you mentioned earlier, you were talking about the inequalities and the impact with climate change. What have you been witnessing now that you're like really focused on this and you're part of the 1%? How is that informing what you're currently doing and working on?
Well, seeing is believing, and I love to travel to understand, and I've come to understand that the world is not black and white, and with all shades of gray in everything, whether it's democracy or anything. And really seeing one of my favorite countries, I've been there twice, is Ethiopia. I would go back in a nanosecond. So I've taken my children, I've taken my mom, and it's a country that always fascinated me. Again, by reading, the tribes in the south, and then these incredible carved Christian churches in the north, and visiting that and seeing, going into some of the huts, like the Mursis, for example, that these are the tribes that have these face plates.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And of the leader, and seeing that there was only like a mat as a bed, and that maybe one stool, one spoon, one pot, and that was it. And then realizing that they had to walk kilometers to get firewood, no running water. So it really made me realize, how the world is, how other people are living in droughts, situations of droughts, with almost nothing. And that, we are so lucky, especially in Canada, with all this fresh water. And how can I help these people, or how can I help mitigate the climate change that we are actually causing? Recently, last summer we went to Iceland, and and we hiked on the glaciers, and we were in ice lagoons, and there too, it's 85% of the glaciers will have disappeared in the 21st century, and it was like, oh my god! And fresh water, we only have, I think, is microscopic. There's only 0.5% of the world water is fresh water, and so it's really realizing that we have to. Climate change is real. It's happening in front of our eyes, and we have to do something. We have to stop. So this is where I went into the sustainability aspect.
Thank you for sharing that. And several things you said there I think are really important. Is travel is eye-opening in so many ways, because we only know what we know based on what we've been born and raised with, and to your point earlier, we've been very fortunate to have the luxuries that we have, whether you're in Canada, US, Europe, like there's a lot of stuff. I'm just gonna say it, where we have a lot of stuff, and less is more often. And when you were just describing, going and visiting the huts and the tribes, and, or you see little kids playing, kicking a can, and they're just as happy as could be. And so sometimes we forget about that because we get so caught up in the noise of everything that's happening. But what struck me, I think most importantly, is what you shared about you're one single person making a difference because you're conscious of it and you're being intentional with it. And that's, I think that's the message that to our audience is, what is one thing that we can do that will enable us to make a difference, right? Often we do put our head in the sand, or we get caught up by what you said earlier about that stock price. Is it, you know, we're so tied into that we lose sight of what's really having an impact and creating that legacy.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you share, Tonya, with our audience today, so that they can, you know, even think about how to make an impact?
Well, first of all, it really depends on what their passions are. So my answer would be different if it's on the climate or not. But let's say if it's with regards to the climate, exactly to what you said is stuff doesn't make us happy.
Yeah.
And so it's really thinking of, do we need this? So it's really thinking about our purchases, being much more conscious about what we buy, where it comes from, how it's made. Also, the end life of that product. Like you were saying, my mom has one of those 70s fridges that still works.
Yes, they do. They're great.
She needs duct tape to keep it closed, but it works. And so really being conscious of all of that, our purchasing power. And, you know, to again reflect on, we have won the lottery of life, and how can we make a difference in an area that we want, whether it's animals, whether it's, you know, planting trees, whether it's anything they, you know, looking after elderly. I mean, whatever it is, but we can make a difference in one person's life or a community or people abroad. But I believe that it's our responsibility to make a difference. And, you know, I'm very proud to collaborate with Dress for Success. And honestly, volunteering makes me so happy. And we actually get back so much more.
Yeah.
So it's really that mind shift that, you know, volunteering shouldn't be just that one corporate day.
Yeah.
Although that is very good. That is also a first step. You know, it should be, you know, in our culture. It should be part of our daily lives. Should be, you know, what is that one good deed you did today? And it actually makes us feel really, really good as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, less is better. You know, reduce, reuse, repair, repurpose. There's so many, you know, ideas to repurposing things, you know, on Pinterest or anything. Like, you know, I could be lost all day, you know, on different ways of repurposing anything. So it's just really start thinking, and, you know, once we start looking with that different lens, you know, the world really opens up, and our imagination opens up.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you just said there, and it's so true, because once you see it, or once you open your mind to that, then you can't stop seeing it. Right? It expands exponentially, because now you're looking at everything of, how do I reuse that? And I see a lot of our young people right now, like, I know my daughter as an example, she's very good at repurposing, because she's like, oh, I don't want to throw that away. And sometimes I'm like, is she just hoarding? But then I see her do such creative things with, you know, like things that most people would just throw away, right? And she's like, oh no, I can use that for this. And so I think if we can do more of that, and you know, how you have created a whole business with beautiful, unique designs by repurposing and reusing gemstones and beads. And so, you know, thank you for doing that. And thank you for sharing your story today. And so, out of curiosity, I mean, some of you are watching the podcast via video, some of you are listening to it audio. If you are listening audio, please go and check out Tonya's design. So Tonya, you want to share how they find you?
Yes. So we have a website, and that's www.asymmetricbydesign.com. So that's Asymmetric, design.com. So you have some of the collections there. Please follow us also on Instagram or on Facebook. You can find me personally on LinkedIn as well. So Tonya Dickenson. I think you know how it's spelled, or should I spell it?
No, you're okay. Good.
And we also have a studio at the Montreal Art Center and Museum. We also do a lot of redesigns and commission work. So I was just a mother of a bride. So now lots of people say, "Oh, I want a necklace like you." So I repurposed an antique brooch for my grandmother, and so we can do that. No, we look forward to working with you and meeting with you. And you can also send me an email at Tonya@asymmetricbydesign.com.
Lovely, lovely, excellent. So, if you have more questions about how to repurpose, how to reuse, and we didn't cover that today, please reach out to Tonya and ask questions, right? And check out her designs. Like, she's got some absolutely gorgeous, like I can see them in the background, like some absolutely gorgeous, unique, beautiful pieces of jewelry. So yes, check her out. And Tonya, thank you so much for being here today. And you're such a great storyteller. Like, I love how you took us on this journey of, where this started. And sometimes we don't even realize how, certain things influence where we end up in our life. And so I love the way you've shared your story. So thank you so much for doing that today.
Oh, my pleasure. And thank you for inviting me. Merci beaucoup. Je parle français aussi, donc vous pouvez m'écrire ou m'appeler en français.
Awesome. Thank you. And just for our audience, thank you so much for being here. If you have individuals in your life that you think this would be a really inspiring podcast for them to listen to, please do share it with your family, your friends. The more that each of us do our own part, then, the more we can impact the world. And those of you who are interested in learning more about wilempowered and the work that we do, or you want to sign up for our monthly newsletter, we promise not to bombard your email, your inbox, but we do have a fantastic monthly newsletter, and you get to learn about who's on the show and what's coming up for the wilempowered team. So you can do that at www.wilempowered.com. So thank you everyone for being here, and we look forward to seeing you at our next Will Talk podcast. Take care, everyone.